Do you try to growl as well?
In my free time here, I love to do that. I do like it.
Oh,
I do like it.
we would love
Ah,
some of that in the next
interesting.
Halloween album,
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh, never say never.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Metal Remains Backstage. This is Manuel from Madrid. We have Carlos in New York, and joining us all the way from Tenerife, we have the legendary Andi Deris from Helloween. Hi, Andy. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you.
I see that you have a much better weather than us.
Yeah, grateful I am, because the last days were a little bit rainy and a little bit fresh, but now the sun is back. And but still, you see me having a hoodie. It's not like 20 degrees or 21. It's not really hot.
I think you're used to the German cold, so no complaints about that.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. That's right. Yeah, you are in a very tropical environment, and we can just wait for the heat to come back here.
It will, and
this,
you will.
This winter has been long.
You will suffer in Madrid when the heat comes back.
Oh yeah, it's just a few months away. I'm not complaining about the cold.
In our channel in Metal Remains, we're always looking for new music, new bands to listen to, and we wanted to ask you: are there any new artists or albums that have caught your attention recently, or while on tour?
Totally new. No, my son just introduced me to Bring Me the Horizon.
All right.
Which I definitely like very much. So the new album is definitely something I love. But newer bands, I have to admit, I'm still sticking with my old shit. There's very old shit, and there is not so old shit. Not so old shit, I would mention the new album from Deftones, I love. Finally, something I understand again, because I kind of jumped off the boat after the White Pony, and now I'm back again.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Okay.
Also, I'm still a little fan of Korn. Maybe Disturbed, I still like. So it's honestly everything that goes a little bit away from the stuff that we do.
Yeah, I think it's important to refresh.
It makes sense.
Yeah. And there is something that I caught my attention with Bring Me the Horizon. It's something that most Helloween hardcore fans wouldn't expect you to listen to. What do you think makes that music appeal to you?
Well, honestly, the first 2-3 albums from Linkin Park I loved very, very much.
Okay.
Because I thought that's something I understand, because I don't like rap.
Okay.
But the way they did it, it was for me endurable. And when Chester started to sing, I was like, yeah, fan. I loved it,
And what do you think about the reunion they had recently?
Yeah, I have to follow that. Actually, I haven't tuned in. I saw the lady singer.
Yes, there's Emily, which sounds very nice. We like it a lot.
Okay, I will check it out, definitely.
Awesome.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying back to Bring Me the Horizon. For me, they have a little bit of Linkin Park, a little bit here, a little bit there.
Okay.
And I'm just happy that he is as much as a shouter than Chester was.
Yeah.
So these, I love it.
Do you scream? Do you try to growl as well?
I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not whoa, So, but I love in my free time here. I love to do that. I do like it.
Oh, we would love some of that in the next Helloween album.
Yeah,
for sure.
Oh, never say never.
Yeah. Be careful what you wish.
Be careful what you wish. There's some bands around there, like Arian, for example, or stuff like that, So
there's one band. It's an Israeli band that's called Stardust. So if you ever have some time, check that out. It's very good.
That's an amazing.
It's super bombastic. It's what you can do today with the technology and learnings from music from today. With that same vision. Stardust, yeah.
Stardust.
Stardust. Okay.
Okay.
They are more into the progressive side of things, but it's
Yeah,
it's
think of it
niche.
like if Epica had a baby with Dream Theater, something like that.
Okay. Just got an ugly image in my head.
For many years, fans debated the Hansen era versus the Kiske era versus the Deris era. Now that everyone is together in Helloween, how do you look back at that rivalry among fans, and what would you say to those who still compare those periods today?
Well, I mean, those who complain still today, they probably will complain forever about everything, because
Yeah.
now you got all the three areas, all the three epochs in inside one band. So what could you wish for,
Right.
if not this? So personally, I look back at it with first of all, with a grain of salt and a smiley twink in my eyes. Like, yeah, I mean, it keeps you in the press. People talk.
Yeah.
So even, as we all know, even bad publicity is better than none. You know, so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So back in the days, I was not really affected. I read it and I went like, okay, I sometimes feel the same for myself. I'm bitching about something, and honestly, a year later, I listen to them again. So, so it's normal. I can just compare it with my first band that I loved was Kiss when I was a young boy, and suddenly there was a change. The drummer was out, the guitarist was out, and I was pissed off. You know, so it took me like 1.5, 2 years to finally get back to Kiss, because still they did great stuff and great songs that I still love nowadays. But back in the days, I was pissed off simply because
Yeah.
I grew up with it.
Yeah.
Please don't change my, what's the right word? My comfort zone. I'm used to these people. I'm used to Ace Frehley and on the guitar and Peter Criss on the drums, and suddenly they are gone. So for me, a world fell apart. It took me, like as I said, 1.5, 2 years to get back on the train and admitting that I'm still a Kiss fan, whatever that is now. So, but I completely understand, because when you're kind of forced out of your comfort zone, the band you grew up with, which was everything for you, and suddenly there are new faces, and it's a different life suddenly. I was not prepared for that, and I think lots of people feel the same way.
Yeah.
You know, but life goes on, as we all learn with the years, and so I sooner or later got back to my old bands, and yeah, there was a new singer, or yeah, there was a new guitarist, whatever. If they still did great music, I leaned into it again. You know, what I wanted to say, I'm with everybody who is actually complaining. I'm with them. I was complaining too, and that's very normal. That's pretty much the same for your first album. You listen to your first album, maybe you have your first intimate moment or whatever. So that's the greatest album you can ever listen to. And all the other albums which are released by the same band are never as good, because there's not that memory connected, you know. So that's music.
I think for humans, change is difficult to
Accept.
Yeah, for all of us.
understand and embrace. It takes time.
It takes time, you know. But then I learned, okay, it's not the people who come into the new people who come into the band. It's not their fault. So, and I learned to live with them, and sometimes I really learned to love them even as much, or sometimes even more. So, talking about, for example, Van Halen, when David Diamond Dave was leaving the band, I was completely pissed off, and it took me like two albums of Van Halen with Sammy Hagar, and I don't like it. I don't like it. I want Halen. And sooner or later, I had to admit, okay, but it's a great singer. They doing fantastic songs, and I was back in again. You know.
Good.
And then the guy from Extreme came.
Yeah.
Giants and Monsters, as well as the previous album, Helloween, was conceived with the unique dynamic of having 3 vocalists in the band. When it comes to writing and composing new material, how does that process work?
It affects a little bit here and there, because you realize you can do twin harmonic vocals. It gives you one more spice during songwriting, which you normally did not have in the back of your mind. When you write songs, you go for main vocals only. Certainly you do later on, you cover, you put in some second voices and third voices when it's a big chorus or something like that. But this time it was great to have in the back of my mind, for example, for Into the Sun or for This Is Tokyo and 2 or 3 other songs. It was pretty clear that now I can write a verse with 2 voices. I gave Michael, back in the days, I gave Michael a call and said, "Oh, there's a Simon and Garfunkel song. You have to sing with me." he understood I would want to cover a Simon and Garfunkel song. I said, "No fucking way. That's not what I say. It's just like that feeling, you and I on the song of mine. So This Is Tokyo, it's called." I said, "Oh yeah, okay." He really thought I want to cover a Simon Garfunkel song. Funny thing. Yeah, it gives you an extra spice. You can do it because the verse, for example, take This Is Tokyo. The verse itself with one voice would have been okay, but then when you say, okay, yeah, sure, let's try that second voice over it, it's much better together. And this time we can do it without actually betraying ourselves, because if you would do it on a normal album without Michael or without Kai, so the way we used to do things, I would have sung the second voice myself.
Yeah.
Which is always a bit
and
stupid.
Live helps a lot to connect with people.
Yeah, live you're
not
live
bringing
you're
the pre-recorded track, right?
first of all, or you're completely fucked because you don't have a singer who's really good enough to double your voice. That's like, you never know. But having 2,
you have a stellar trio over there. You are a
3
stellar
singers,
trio.
yeah.
I think you got that covered.
Kiske is always saying we are 2.5 singers. Kai is also there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Which was the funny thing during the production of the last album, because Michael and myself, we sat in the studio with the producer and figuring out what we like to sing and what don't we like to sing, what can you sing and what is not your vibe. So, and that was like 95% was clear. And Michael loved what he has to sing. I was okay with what I had to sing. That was 5% we both had a problem with. Then we gave Kai a call and told him he has to sing. That was a funny thing. Bastards.
With such a rich and extensive catalog on the band spanning several decades and different eras, how do you build a set list that still meets fans' expectations and your own expectations as well?
Well, 50-50. I mean, we do our own shit, and then we had like the last 2 tours, we actually asked the fans on Helloween.org, and they make their list this time again. And so there's always a 50-50 mixture. And yes, there are some surprising songs which you go like, okay, we never played them, or wow, we haven't played them for ages. And when they want it, then we have them on the list. And I remember we had 3 hours 20 or something running, and then we had to get rid of this or that song because in the running order it didn't work. I mean, it's like some songs work, some songs don't, and there's no real place in a set where you can bring them, or at least that's what we felt. But yeah, actually it's a 50-50 thing. So it's the shit we want to play and it's the shit the fans want to hear.
I'm sure nobody was pissed off. The fans 100% agreed with the set list, right? What will you think? Which one?
Can't be everyone's darling.
Which one is the strangest thing people keep coming up with?
Well, it used to be, for example, Rise and Fall. I think it's a cool song and we did it. Michael was a bit like, I don't want to, but yeah, he's doing a great job, and then I think that's cool.
But I'm sure people are asking things from Chameleon and more hidden gems from the repertoire, right?
From the Chameleon album, there was, as far as I remember, the first song from the Chameleon was somewhere in the list on the 40s and 50s. Okay. So there were like 40 songs before a Chameleon song, which were not from the Chameleon. No, Chameleon is, no surprise for me, not a very loved album.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
not
very,
good,
very
not well
divisive
understood, I
back
think.
then.
Yeah, put it that way. Back in the days, there's a nice story. Waiki gave me a call and said, "Hey, we finished the album. I send it down to you." So he sent me the tape, and like 3-4 days later, he gave me a call. "Did you receive it? Have you listened to it? What do you think?" And I said, "Yeah, I listened to it twice. Actually, it's a great album for Bon Jovi." And then he hung up.
Yeah.
Savage.
That's true. It was more rock oriented, indeed.
The next day, he was giving me a call again and said, "Yeah, I'm sorry, I was pissed off." I said, "Yeah, I'm just being honest with you. I mean, I wasn't certainly not in the band back in the days, but he always confronted me, and I always confronted him. And total honesty was the key. I mean, if I would told him like it's a perfect Helloween album, it would have been a lie. It was a great album.
Right.
Musically, and the songs I understood were good songs on it, some great songs on it, but not for Helloween. That was my opinion back in the days. And Waiki was 24 hours pissed off. I think the band itself was punished. They punished themselves because they looked for the guilty guy, the one who caused the problems, and the one who is responsible for a Chameleon album. But honestly, it always takes a band. I mean, there's no dictator in the band who could force you to write an album that the band wouldn't like. So I personally think they were all in it, and they did it, and the people out there didn't like it. So fuck it, you know. And then I joined the band, and for me it was quite clear. Okay, I like these pop metal songs like Dr. Steen, Future World, or I Want Out. I mean, I love these songs, but
I think there's still some of that DNA still in the band, even in Giants and Monsters.
Exactly. But you should never think that you had to write like 9 or 10 songs in an album in that style. That's a neck breaker. The people go like, "What the fuck is this? That's not Helloween at all. We want some speed metal shit." And honestly, I love that speed metal stuff. I won't miss it. I like it. I love it. I love to write it even. My Giants and Monsters for me was so great to write. Or back on the last album, The Fear of the Fallen. It was, for me, it was fantastic. It was great to write these songs. Suddenly ending up with a pop metal album, nah. If you have 2 or 3 pop metal songs on the album, that's another story. But I think that was the neckbreaker for the Chameleon. There were some great songs on it, but they should have done a 70-30 mixture. 70% metal and speed metal, and then 30% pop metal, like I Want Out or Dr. Steen or stuff like that. But they didn't, so here we are.
The Keeper of the Seven Keys saga is one of the most iconic storylines in Helloween's history, but fans haven't seen a new chapter in 20 years since The Legacy. I still have this beauty with me from that tour. Do you think the story is truly finished, or could there still be more keys left for the Keepers to keep in the future?
Oh, there's definitely some keys left, but you have to see that the Keeper of the Seven Keys is very much depending on the political situation. Now, if I would have to write a song or an album now, I would definitely take the political situation.
Yeah, we have some stuff going on. you can
have
latch
a lot
on
of bullshit going on. Yeah. So yeah, it would be the right time now. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we already have an album out. But you know, it always like take The Legacy. The Legacy was actually that album to the Iraq War.
That
and
was
everything
super special for me, at least. It was the first time I saw you live with Carlos back in El Salvador. That was a great tour. It was the first international non-Latin American band I saw live. Before you, I just had seen Angra, and I was very young by that time, so it was very impressive. So it has a very special place in my heart.
The Legacy was a political album, and The King for 1,000 Years is the main leader of that political thing we wanted to say. Certainly, you never hear any words or names, but it's all in the Keeper world. When you read through the lyrics, it's pretty much clear to everybody what the whole song is about without naming certain people. Yeah, it was very important for us back in the day. So we have that luxury that everything that goes down in the real world, we can actually pack it into a fantasy world without being finger pointing with names. You don't have to say it,
Yeah,
but
people
it's
know.
still in there. Everybody who reads it knows what's going on.
Awesome.
Okay, well, I think it's a good time for
That's the beauty of art.
calling the keeper.
It would be a good time for part 4. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
absolutely
true. That's true. Yeah.
Andy, it's been great talking to you. I hope we can catch up again in the future whenever you visit Madrid or New York or somewhere else, of course. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
I am waiting for your show here on April 17. I'm looking forward to be there. Hopefully in the pit taking photos, if not just there with the fans enjoying
Have some
the
fun.
live show.
That's the main thing. Have some
now,
fun.
before we go, we would like you to share with us one of your favorite backstage stories over the years.
One of my favorites. Well, there's 2 stories which are pretty much alike. One story, Marcus was standing on stage and I was running to him, and suddenly he was gone.
Okay.
You push him somewhere.
No, but the stage broke. So he was just falling
there was
down
a trap door.
onto the...
There
was something like a trap door, and he was just gone. And I was like,
wow,
completely stunned. And I was stopping singing. And then the boys looked at me because I stopped singing, so they stopped playing. At the end of the day, everybody looked at me. What the fuck is going on? And it was complete silence. There must be like, back in the days, 2,000 people in the club, and everybody was quiet. And the boys looked at me and said, Marcus is gone. Then we were both going to that hole in the stage, and there were like 4 or 5 heads looking down, and Marcus just was sitting down there with a bass guitar. I'm actually quite comfortable down here.
Yeah, that sounds like him.
And the second story, which is pretty much the same story, was with Michael Kiske in New York.
Okay.
Also a very packed club. Fortunately, because Michael had, for the first time, because he was so nervous, and he said, I need something to get into mood. And I said, well, have a glass of red wine.
Mm-hmm.
And I said 1 glass. I did not say half a bottle. So, but he emptied probably nearly the bottle, because he was going out there and suddenly, boom, he was just gone. I said, what the fuck just happened? Michael is gone. And I saw all the fans like that, and he was on them. He was probably his first stage dive. Unfortunately, it was his first stage dive, but he can't remember shit because he was unconscious.
Oh boy.
Well, he wouldn't be able to tell that story.
No, but we can.
That's the beauty of being in a band.
Hopefully somebody captured a video or something.
Definitely, 1,000 thanks to New York back in the day. I think it's like 6 or 7 years ago. They rescued actually Michael Kiske because he fell unconscious and fortunately in the middle of the crowd. So cool.
Great. Well, there you have it, guys. Be careful whenever you hit the stage with Helloween, or you might end up below the stage.
And you don't want me to fall onto you because I got 90 kilos.
Very well. Thank you, everybody, for watching this video. If you liked it, please like it, share it with your friends. Make sure to buy and stream Giants and Monsters, which is already out, to double support Helloween. And don't forget to catch them on the road whenever they get to a city near you. See you next time, but until then, stay metal!
No sé qué putas es una mierda que se marca ahí atrás. Nunca se ha marcado.
Un cojín creo que es tu silla, o el marco de tu silla puede ser. No, porque tu silla es gris, ¿verdad? Ya estamos, Carlos. Hello.
Carlos, how are you?
Hi, Andy.
How are you doing?
Great. I'm very happy to be with you today.